what's allowed these days.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's weird being here, and even this morning I had a message from Jesse saying, "Are you nervous?" And the reality is, even though I've known for a long time I was going to make this announcement and no longer be able to play on, every time I've gone to think about what to say, I've gone blank. And sitting up here, it's kind of no different. You know, how do you articulate or truly thank everyone that's made a dream a reality? And you know, yes, I'm calling quits on my time in the NBL, and it breaks my heart to have to do so, but I know it's the right decision. I've known for a long time it was the right decision, but there's so much that goes into being able to be put in a position where you're retiring from a dream in many regards, and that goes back to my days in Gloucester. You know, mum and dad, the sacrifices they made, my 4 siblings. I could spend all day talking about the life lessons and the admiration I have for mum and dad and my siblings and what they did to help me get here. And now to be a father myself, there's no way I won't do anything but to try and help my kids achieve it, but it doesn't take anything away from what mum and dad did. Just an absolute inspiration and the reason I love being a parent and trying to strive to be as good as they are. You know, Gloucester means a lot to me, and that's where it all started, but there's been a lot of ups and downs along the way. But basketball was something I did because I enjoyed it. I made friends out of it. I enjoyed the competitive nature of it, and I never expected it to be a vessel to go travel, to live in different places, to meet new people, and to end up calling Perth home, meet my wife here, have 2 daughters, and fall in love with the city, the place, the Red Army, the club. And I feel bad because I know there's going to be people I miss out on, and I don't want to be too general with it, but the reality is it's a huge thank you that everyone I've met along the way. You know, it's one thing to achieve something, it's those that you achieve it with that make it all that more meaningful, and that includes not just the players on the court, not just the current coaching staff, the support staff, the club. It includes the Red Army, it includes your immediate family, it includes those people from Gloucester, and then the move to Canberra, and then the move to Los Angeles, and then Sydney, and then to end up here in Perth. And all along the way, they've helped me in some regard. And whether it was someone who backed me when I didn't back myself, or whether it was someone who doubted me and I went out of my way to try and prove them wrong, they've all had an input and an impact on my life and the achievements, I guess, along the way. But I had a message today when I was completely blank, and it was fitting that I heard from 2 of my former assistant coaches and mates in Scott Roth and Matty Nielsen. And Matty's, you know, a former teammate, 3-time Olympian, and he just messaged me and said, look, when I retired, there was 3 questions I asked, and anyone who knows Nelly, this is how he talks. He was, did I give it a red hot crack? Was it fun? And did I win? And you know, I played as hard as I could. I had a lot of fun. That's what I'll miss the most, is the fun with the mateship and the success. And did I win? I was fortunate enough to be a part of some winning games. But just to simplify, it's been an incredible journey, and I thought it would be extremely hard to articulate and explain. Seeing those 3 things, at least I can answer those questions with a yes, and retire happily, knowing that I did do all I could to achieve what I never thought was achievable. And a lot of people have helped me get there along the way. You know, Trev, you know, to win 5 championships alongside him. He's pushed me in many ways that other coaches hadn't beforehand. A few sliding door moments include when I quit basketball, went to rugby league, and got a call out of the blue from Rob Beveridge, who I didn't know who he was at the time, and he asked if mum or dad were willing to drive me an hour to Raymond Terrace McDonald's. There's no Macca's in Gloucester, so it was a no-brainer. But dad knocked off work, drove me an hour to Macca's, and fittingly, sitting across from a guy who looks like Ronald McDonald, he convinced me to come back to basketball, and I'm glad he did. But again, I can't speak enough about what sacrifices Brittany, my girls go through, travelling, being away. I'm going to really enjoy being home on a weekend and seeing them develop. And I know that high you experience after a win or after winning a championship, you know, people say don't chase that, you can't relive it. And I don't actually believe that, because I see what these 2 little ones in front of me do, and that high I experience, but through them now, and I'll continue to do so. But yeah, I know I'm going to forget about a lot of people, but I genuinely mean it, that everyone I've met along the way, and looking at some of these faces here now, I could tell you a story about each one of them. But a massive thank you from the bottom of my heart for literally making something I never thought could be possible go on to happen, and thank you for sharing in that.
Well, I'll jump in and say it's been a pleasure to coach you, Damo. It's a sad day in one way that he doesn't get to wear the red jersey anymore, and but also a happy occasion that he's had a brilliant career, and the effort that he's shown, he should be proud of. And I know Perth and Basketball Australia are very proud to have Damian Martin play in the NBL for a number of years. He's one of the toughest, well, let me clarify that, he's the toughest guy I've ever coached. Just to see how he puts everything into the team first. We have some values here at the Wildcats, and relentless, that's how he plays. He's inspirational how he plays on the court. His mateship and brotherhood is first class, second to none out there, and we're never ever going to be able to replace him, but he's going to go down in history as one of the best defenders in the history in Australian basketball, and it's a pleasure to have 7 years alongside you, mate, and I know the next 7 years are going to be a great part of your life, so congratulations, mate. Thanks, great year.
Cheers.
Would you have thought coming here in 2009 that you'd go away with 6 championships?
No, I definitely wanted to win as many as possible, but I moved over here and I didn't know a thing about Perth outside of Challenge Stadium where we played, the airport, and the Novotel where we stayed, and the drives in between. So to move here and all these years later develop some of my closest friends, to win those championships. I've got cousins in Rockingham who I barely knew before this, but my auntie catches the train up every single game. 2 of those cousins have gone on to be godparents to my children. I started here living with Jesse, and he's a lifelong friend. Greg High lives around the corner. I look at these faces and I know they're going to continue to be friends, but it's just in a different capacity now, and I'll miss that day-to-day mateship, and that started with a move west. And I forgot to mention Jack and Eleanor Bendat and what they've done, not just for the Wildcats but for the NBL, for the Perth Lynx, for the state of WA. A lot of it people don't know about it, and it's not my news to share, but they've just helped so many people, and finding out a little bit more and more about, whether it's donating money to cancer research, helping women escape domestic violence, putting money into the hearing impaired, whatever it may be. I just love the story of all of that, and then to give the Perth Wildcats as a gift back to the state, and be part of that over the last 10, 11 years has just been incredible. So there's a couple of board members here as well. So Mike and Ted, the front office. There's, like I said, I'm going to leave here and hate myself because I've forgotten to thank so many people, but I mean it from Gloucester through to today. Good or bad, you've been a part of it, and I do mean it when I say thanks.
You've had broken jaw, you've lost teeth, you've had Achilles injuries, you've been classed as the toughest guy going around. Has there been some tears over the last little while, whether it's 24 hours or a couple of months?
Yeah, so because of in round 4 we played a game against Southeast, and I felt my Achilles. I thought that can't be good, but just with how the schedule was, we then jumped on a plane the next day. We flew and played Illawarra, and then I hurt my ribs, and so that's why I missed all my shots this year and for the last 13 years. But then we jumped on a plane, headed over to Brisbane, and by then I could barely walk. We played Brisbane, and then we jumped on a plane and headed to New Zealand. So because I was on the road so long, I knew I'd done something to my Achilles. I just didn't know what. But then when we came back and finally had an MRI, I remember seeing the team doctor, and he broke it to me, the severity of it, and that's kind of when I remember seeing Reece Vague. He was in the waiting room at the doctor's and gave me one of his cheesy grins and a thumb up, and I actually had to duck away into the bathroom, and that was the first time I was a bit emotional because reality had set in. But he said, let's go see the surgeons first, and a week later saw my first surgeon, and he literally said, this is your career-ending injury, let's book you in for surgery next week. And that was kind of the second time it really hit home, and obviously said no to that. Let's try and get through the season. And there's a lot of things I learned along the way, dealing with the initial frustrations of seeing one thing, not being able to physically do it, dealing with the realisation that this will be my last chance at trying to win another championship. And the girls, how much Maggie and Bonnie love the game, and taking them out on court afterwards. And your mates, that's why I wanted to play one more season, or at least risk a complete rupture and whatnot. For me, it was a no-brainer to at least try and get through the season. But the Trev, the assistant coaches, the conditioning team, the weight staff, the doctors, the physios, By the end of the season, I wasn't training. It was just a goal of get through Monday to Thursday, and by tip-off it'll be okay. And I'm just forever grateful that it held on long enough that I could, win one more championship alongside these guys. But yeah, it's been an emotional year because I didn't want anyone knowing about the injury. Because if I was an opposition player, I'd just be going straight out that leg. But the reality is I was just lucky it held on for long enough.
What do you think your greatest qualities were as a player?
I think I just genuinely wanted to win, and working back from that, just loved the game. And so if I could enjoy it every single day and do my little bit to maybe help my teammates get a little bit better, and that little increment each day would help the team overall, which helps with that goal of winning a championship. So yeah, I used to get frustrated when people were motivated other than trying to win a championship, but then I realised after learning from another teammate that I don't care what motivates you, provided it doesn't derail the team from its overall goal. And so then as I got older and I couldn't do the things I wanted to do, I really enjoyed the mental side of the game, or the psychological side of the game, and just wanted to see my teammates do what they could do, and hopefully I could play a small part in helping them get there. And yeah, I mean, some of the most talented guys I've ever played alongside, I got to wear a jersey next to for the last 12 months or 10 years, whatever it may be. So it's, yeah, a lot of very special players, a lot of very good teams, and just grateful to have been a part of it.
Do you have a single highlight that you can think of?
Yeah, actually, we're just up in the Pilbara with some of the boys, and I got asked this question at a Q&A, and the championships are amazing. There's no taking away from that moment that the siren sounds. You embrace your teammates, you embrace your coaches, you go and collect the trophy. But what has been the most meaningful thing to me along the way was that when I got cut from the London Olympics, that was a real low point in my life, not just from a basketball perspective, but how it affected me off the court. But then, and to be honest, at the time, all I could think of was I was a disappointment. I was a failure to mum and dad and all the sacrifices they'd made, my siblings, the sacrifices they'd made. Even though my girlfriend Brittany was a girlfriend at the time, even though none of them ever made me feel that way. And then 4 years later, when I got announced I'd made the team, when I sat across from Luke Longley, Andre Lamanis and Trev, and Andre told me I was in, at that moment was the best moment of my life. But then I left the room and I called Britt on FaceTime, and hearing her reaction, seeing her reaction, that became the best moment of my life. And to be honest, the only thing that topped it was when I got to call mum and dad, and everything that happened in between those 4 years, hearing mum and dad's reaction, seeing it, that was the best moment of my life, and that's what sport brought me. And then the Olympics, I'll never forget. It was a dream come true, but yeah, that specific moment is special to me.
Trev, he seems to be Mr. Perfect. Has he got a fault?
Oh, there's plenty. There's always, the marvellous that, one of the most courageous things I've seen coming back from that broken jaw. I think 3 weeks later he's back on the court playing when he was written off for 3 months. And going on the court, he'd forget to put his mouthguard in. He would forget everything. His shoes, his socks, his shirts everywhere. So many times at practice we go down and he's got Greg Hire's shirt on practice, and what's going on if I got practicing it? But yeah, that's small things compared to what he did on the floor. It's a credit to him to get the most out of himself, and he's been a great teammate for many, many years, and a great guy, and I hope he's happy today.
There'll be players that will score more points, get more rebounds, but is he the greatest Wildcat?
Oh, that's a big comment. It's the greatest.
Is Bryce here?
He's without question the most tenacious guy that I've ever seen play the game. He doesn't take a backward step. It doesn't matter anything. Dislocated finger, pop it back in, let me go back out there. Play what he went through this year, just to hang out the year when the obvious choice is go and get his body fixed up and get surgery, and he's ruled out for the year. Is not, and the pain he goes through every morning that he wakes up and has to play the next day. Those things that people don't see, and have that as a teammate. It's so inspirational to play alongside him and to coach him.
Damo, is there any ongoing injury concerns later in life? Your jaw, your Achilles, do you have to get basically touched up?
my bottom teeth are hanging on by a thread, so I'll eventually have to get some fake teeth. I mean, that finger shouldn't be able to do that. So arthritis down the track. But to be honest, since the surgery, it's actually the first time I can wake up and walk pain-free. So I'm very happy that I've had the surgery. It's gone really well, and eventually I'll be able to get out there and run around with my kids and play a bit of sport with them, which is the main thing down the track. But foreseeable future, it's just the teeth, hopefully, for now.
What's next for you now?
About 18 months ago, at my age, I knew that I'd be retiring at some stage. I didn't want to retire and then walk into a new career altogether, so I started doing real estate with a guy called Jonathan Clover. So I'm a part owner of the real estate agency now. And then there's the charity I mentioned while we were up in the Pilbara recently. A friend of mine, Fiona White-Hartig, she does a lot of work, and I'll start working with the foundation as well. And then I've managed to get myself involved with a sports drinks company called Everlast, and all I can do is think of Jesse when I'm about to say this is my corny face is going to be on the drinks, and he just must be thinking the label better be big enough to get my ears on there as well. So I'll be involved in a few little things, and then seeing some of the faces out there, I'm lucky enough to continue working on radio, especially alongside some of these guys. So I'm looking forward to that.
Do you want to stay in basketball, like coaching or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. I love it. One thing I've learned is I don't want to be a head coach. You win a game, they credit the players. You lose and they blame the coach. And just with a young family, I'll stay involved in the sport because I love it so much. But I dare say to be involved from maybe Bonnie and Maggie's coach at some stage and shooting it out on our home court.
Trevor, Damian's going to leave a pretty big hole. How do you go about it?
Yeah, I don't think you can ever replace a player like Damo on the court. The next person's up's going to have their own personality, their own way of playing. I think his ability on the court, to win a finals MVP. I've seen him actually destroy people too scared to bring the ball down the court against them. And to have that fear factor, we're certainly going to miss that, without question.
Don't know if the Wildcats need an injury replacement at some stage, January, February calls. Did you pick up the phone?
Yeah, well, I'll pick up, but it doesn't mean I'll be in the shape to do it.
Yeah.
But no, I'd be lying if I said that I wouldn't be interested. But we got, I don't know if who the young guys are we signed, but if Taylor Britt comes back, he's more than ready. Nordo is a starter on any team. He's more than ready. We got Bryce, LT, Wani. So we've got plenty of depth, but if it calls, I'll pick up.
Have you got a toughest opponent before we?
Yeah. Well, if I take away, some of the guys with the Boomers, but if I'm talking purely NBL, then I hate saying it, but yeah, Bryce is the best I've played alongside, and on a daily basis, the best I've played against. So he's pretty good. It's good to have him back. And, hell of a talent, but no, he's the best I've played against or alongside here at the Wildcats.